Hello and welcome. I'm Ken. We're visiting with Mike. Thank you for visiting. Thank you, Mike, for visiting. In the last few weeks, we've been talking about very different leaders in very different kinds of organizations who all use similar ideas. We could call them common denominators to see real, helpful, lasting change. I'm hoping for more common denominators. Let's move
Well,
forward.
one of the things that I was thinking of is thinking through the scriptures and leaders and what happens in organization. And I was thinking of Matthew 6:21. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. So the question then becomes, what's my treasure? Where is my treasure? What am I pursuing? Uh, when I was in Japan, I had been invited by parents of a student to go over there for two weeks to visit. And I visited plants and I saw displayed all over the place what the goals of the organization was. What is it that we're trying to accomplish? How much are we going to make? How much are we going to whatever? Even to the point where it's real time. When you visit Toyota, they've got a big display hanging from the ceiling in the assembly area that says how much you've produced up to this point and what the goal was, and you see that, as the day goes on, it gets updated real time.
Wow.
So I came back, and at the time I was doing some research, and I thought it'd be interesting to compare how supervisors, first line management, looks at the goals, and I expected that the Japanese would be able to recite, chapter and verse as to what the goals were. In the US or in Canada, it'd be all over the place. So I sent a whole bunch of surveys. I had about 400 surveys in Canada and 400 in Japan. Actually, it was a little bit more than that. I had close to 1,000 surveys, and asking that question: what are your goals? What are you planning to accomplish? And when I look at the Japanese responses, I was totally disappointed because there wasn't one word about I have to produce so much or I have to, whatever it is that the target was. And so there went my assumption that there will be a drastic difference between the two populations. But then thinking about it, instead of having the data say what I wanted to say, I had to better to stop and say, okay, what is the data telling me? And the responses from the Japanese was, in order to do what I have to do, I have to get the best out of my people. How do I motivate them? How do I bring them as a team? How do I improve their skill level? How do I get them promoted so that they'll be motivated and engaged in the work that they're supposed to do? And,
Interesting.
but yet it was very interesting because then the question is, at the first line supervision area on the floor, the issue is not how big the number is what it is that we need to do to get it done. So you focus on the means as compared to the endpoint. And if you do the right things, then the results will come. If you don't do the right things, you won't get the results that you want. So it was an interesting episode in my journey through business, is to see that the supervisor concerned about people And then I started lining up the things that they were doing differently. For instance, many companies over there have a budget item for supervisors to entertain their subordinates. I have yet to find one place in the US where it's part of the budget system where you allocate so much money so that you bring a team together.
Interesting.
Another time was that the people I've been in touch with over in Japan invited me to go out to one of their places where employees go to after work to have a beer and to have food and social time kind of thing of interaction. And again, it showed that there was a kind of an investment in people and to draw that the best out of people kind of thing. And the one basic ground rule is whatever gets said there doesn't get repeated and raised again. It's it's a little bit like the saying, what happens in Las Vegas stays in Las Vegas.
Interesting.
So not that there was anything illicit happening, but sometimes people get inebriated and may say things that normally they wouldn't say because they had too much to drink kind of thing. So I'm thinking about that, and then I'm thinking also of Nehemiah, and or Gosen, and you see the emphasis that they have on getting the best out of people. So the where your heart is how do you, especially at that lower level, how do you treat people? How do you interact with people to uh, to assist them in their growth and then in performing to what they're capable of doing, which is essentially what Gosen was saying with Nissan. They've got ideas. All I have to do is to get them loose and get it done. So, and the same thing with Eunice, those women are doing the work already. All they have to do is, pay their bill every month or their debt every week and stay on target, and then everybody will be happy. So you see that same common thread through all of that. Then I was thinking about research that has been done in the US in the workplace. And one organization that's done a lot of work in there is Gallup. I don't know if you know the people. It's and the stuff that they have, a lot of it is available online. So anything that if you want to see something about Gallup and employee engagement, it's there for you to scroll or anybody else. It's no their money. They're in business for business, obviously. Their source of income is to not in publishing what they found, but more in getting organizations to make an assessment and to lay out plans to change things to improve the situation. Why employee engagement? What is employee engagement? It's to get people involved and enthusiastic about their work and the workplace. So if you get them excited about what's happening, again, the results reflected. If they're not engaged, then guess what? You got problems.
Yeah.
And not only do you have problems, but it's like that chain, you have links. And it's not just that you want 80% of the people engaged. You want 100% engaged, because if you have some that are not engaged, guess what? They'll mess up the works, not because they do it on purpose, but just because they won't, they're not in tune with what's happening. So the question then becomes what's out there? Gallup has studied, was it over 3 million workers across 100,000 teams. So,
Wow.
it's a very broad base of research. And what they came up with is that first they had a whole bunch of questions, and then they came down to 12 things that were important. They call it Q12. And I won't spend time on the Q12 today, but we'll probably revisit it later on sometime. But the Q12 says that there's 12 basic things that contribute to the level of engagement of employees. And surprisingly, their 12 things essentially go back to the motivational theory, where it says there's basic needs that people have, and are they being met? Is their contribution recognized? Are they being, helped or whatever else? And do they feel that they're part of something? They're part of the group. And so that's one thing. And what the shocking thing is that the level of engagement is fairly low in the US, but even worse in the rest of the world. So
Interesting.
that when you look at that, it's a major issue.
Mhm.
It says in the US, 31% of the employees are engaged.
Wow.
And I don't know how they choose the best practice organizations, but the organizations that do perform, 70% are engaged. So you can see the difference, the contrast that there is between the two.
That's huge.
The other thing also that they found is that 70% of engagement, the difference is a manager. So all of those things tie together. Where is the heart is? How is the heart of the manager? And how do you express those kinds of things to the people that are under you, that you're responsible for? So it's very important to recognize that when you're a manager, and those things I found out after after I retired from industry, not when I was in industry. Uh, I was a manager, at age 30, branch manager, uh, youngest manager in the company at the time. And I was taken, from an analyst position to a management position without any preparation. I was just dunked in there. So what do I do now? And the worst part about it is it was a new position, and there was no blueprint, nothing that existed before. So how do you make, something that you can't duplicate or whatever? So the importance of the manager is in how do you come alongside employees to help them to develop and to do the best that they can. And then they get a positive attitude also with the employees. It's the response is that, yeah, I'm going to do the best that I can, kind of thing. So anyway, that's what I had today for the thing, that where your treasure is important, because I never thought about, the people that reported to me. I was just, I'm a professional, they're a professional, they better do what they're supposed to do, and that was it, kind of thing. Is it done? That was the question, kind of thing. Or when is it going to be done? Instead of saying, okay, well, how you propose to go about it, how you're going to address that aspect, and whatever. Not telling them what to do, but asking them to think through and to help them develop to the potential that they're capable to reach. So that's the challenge in industry, and I would say also the challenge probably in families. When you look at marriages, over 50% in divorce, and even greater for people that have been divorced before, that doesn't say very much about the attitude and the commitment that people have, or even in the choices that they're making. And obviously that's reflected in the statistics. So again, where your treasure is where your heart is also. And the heart again goes back to the thing we talked about before of mindset. What is it that you hold and that you want to apply across the board? And that becomes the blueprint for your activities, for your thinking, for your development, and all of those things. Anyway,
Thank you very much. That's very valuable. And I'm looking forward to our next visit. Any final words?
well, I would encourage people to log on to Gallup and to look. I just gave, a 30-second overview, and I've got a file that's an inch and a half thick of stuff that they've published, and I keep on looking at it and tracking it and seeing is it improving or is it deteriorating? And it's kind of a weather vane kind of thing. It tells you if things are improving or not, and it's important for organization to really understand how people feel and to find an avenue for management to get some feedback to assess this the quality of relationships that exist in the workplace. And that's the key thing is our employees engaged. And that's one of the things that each of the cases we looked at, they were definitely engaged. Even Winona, when he would scream at the supervisor because of a situation that he would see, the guy had no choice. He had to be engaged.
I will be sure to put Gallup in the description for this video and draw people's attention to it. Thank you very much. We will talk to you another week. Thank you for this visit.
Thank you.